Is wealth just defined by the amount of money you have? If this is the case, it is very troublesome since money does not have a constant value. Here's what we came up with. Today we are going to talk about top 10 richest people in history. Before starting this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more future updates. Number 10. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is without a doubt one of history's most effective military commanders. As ruler of the Mongol Empire, which spanned from China to Europe at its peak, Khan ruled over the world's biggest continuous empire. Despite his tremendous authority, researchers claim that Genghis never hoarded his money. On the contrary, the Khan's generosity was crucial to his power. According to Jack Weatherford, author of Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World, Mongol warriors were forbidden from seizing personal booty, unlike many pre-modern armies. After a territory was captured, every object captured was inventoried by government clerks and then handed to the warriors and their families. Genghis earned a portion of the profits, but it wasn't enough to make him wealthy. He did not construct a castle for himself or his family, a temple, a tomb, or even a house, writes Weatherford. He was born and died in a wool ger. When he died, he was wrapped in felt and buried, just like any other ordinary person. Number 9. Jeffrey Bezos. Jeffrey Preston Bezos is a business entrepreneur, media owner, and investor from the United States. Bezos is the founder and CEO of Amazon, a multinational technology corporation. On November 24, 2017, Bezos' fortune crossed $100 billion for the first time, and he was officially named the world's richest person by Forbes on March 6, 2018, with a net worth of $112 billion. He was declared the richest man in modern history when his net worth grew to $150 billion in July 2018, making him the first centibillionaire on the Forbes Wealth Index. Number 8. Alan Rufus. During the Norman conquest of England, Alan Rufus was a Breton nobleman, kinsman, and associate of William the Conqueror, Duke William II of Normandy. He was Eos and Penta's second son via Organ Cernif. In about 1071, William the Conqueror handed Alan Rufus an important English fief, subsequently known as the Honour of Richmond. Rufus, William the Conqueror's nephew, assisted his uncle in the Norman conquest. According to Philip Beresford and Bill Rubenstein, authors of The Richest of the Rich, he died with £11,000, which equal to 7% of England's GDP at the time. In 2018 currency, this equates to $194 billion. Number 7. John D. Rockefeller. In 1863, Rockefeller made his first investment in the petroleum sector, and by 1880, his Standard Oil firm controlled 90% of American oil output. According to his obituary in the New York Times, Rockefeller was worth over $1.5 billion based on a 1918 federal income tax return and estimates of his whole fortune, the equivalent of about 2% of U.S. economic production that year. According to figures provided by Measuring Worth, the U.S. did not keep official records on national income until 1932. In 2021, the same economic share would be worth $341 billion. Number 6. Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie was a Scottish-American philanthropist and businessman. Carnegie drove the late 19th century rise of the American steel industry and became one of the wealthiest Americans in history. He rose to prominence as a philanthropist in both the United States and the British Empire. During the final 18 years of his life, he donated $350 million to various organizations, foundations, and institutions, accounting for about 90% of his wealth. Although Rockefeller receives the most attention, Andrew Carnegie may be the wealthiest American of all time. In 1901, the Scottish immigrant sold his firm, U.S. Steel, to J.P. Morgan for $480 million. That figure equated to little more than 2.1% of U.S. GDP at the time, providing Carnegie economic influence of $372 billion in 2019. Number 5. Joseph Stalin. Stalin is an unusual person in modern economic history, a dictator with unlimited authority who also ruled over one of the world's greatest economies. While it is almost difficult to disentangle Stalin's fortune from the wealth of the Soviet Union, his unusual combination of economic prowess and total control of the USSR has led many economists to name him one of the wealthiest persons in history. Their rationale is plainly apparent. According to OECD data, the USSR accounted for around 9.5% of worldwide economic production in 1950, 3 years before Stalin's death. That amount of output would be comparable to roughly $7.5 trillion in 2019. Even still, it's difficult not to put Stalin among the most economically powerful figures in history. Although his wealth is unclear, there is little doubt that the Premier's personal economic impact is unparalleled in modern history. Number 4. Akbar I. Akbar, the greatest emperor of India's Mughal dynasty, ruled an empire that accounted for almost one-fourth of world economic production. According to Fortune's Chris Matthews, the late economic historian Angus Maddison, India's GDP per capita under Akbar was equivalent to Elizabethan England, but with a ruling elite whose luxurious lifestyle eclipsed that of European civilization. That claim that India's top class was richer than their Western counterparts is supported by statistics from economist Branko Milanovic, whose study demonstrates that the Mughal dynasty was one of the most successful empires of all time in taking money from the public. Number 3. Emperor Shenzong. The Song dynasty of China, 960-1279, was one of the most economically strong dynasties of all time. During its apex, the country accounted for between 25% and 30% of global economic activity, according to Professor Ronald A. Edwards, a Chinese economic historian of the Song dynasty at Tamkang University. The empire's prosperity stemmed from both technical advances and exceptional tax collecting skills, which Edwards claims were hundreds of years ahead of European governments. They also said that the administration of the Song dynasty was extremely centralized, which meant that the emperor had immense authority over the economy. Number 2. Augustus Caesar. He was the first emperor of the Roman Empire, and his fortune is estimated to be worth $4.6 trillion in today's currency. He personally had one-fifth of the riches of an empire that amounted for around 30% of the world's gross domestic output. Not only was Augustus Caesar in control of an empire that accounted for 25% to 30% of global economic production, but according to Stanford history professor Ian Morris, Augustus had personal fortune equal to one-fifth of his empire's GDP at one time. In 2021, that wealth would be worth around $4.6 trillion. Morris adds that Augustus personally possessed all of Egypt for a while. Number 1. Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa, the monarch of Timbuktu, is often regarded as the richest man in history. According to Ferrum College history professor Richard Smith, Musa's West African kingdom was arguably the world's biggest gold producer at a period when gold was in particularly high demand. Musa, how wealthy was he? There is no way to place a precise value on his fortune. Records are scant, if not non-existent, and contemporaneous accounts depict the king's wealth in impossible-to-understand terms. Some accounts of Musa's renowned journey to Mecca, during which his spending was so extravagant that it precipitated an Egyptian monetary crisis, describe dozens of camels, each carrying hundreds of pounds of gold. That's a wrap for the top 10 richest people in history. Hope you enjoyed the video. What do you think about our list? Let us know in the comments section below. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more future updates.